What do we have this morning? Almost 40 total people. I was not expecting you all to be up this early, but I appreciate you hanging out with me. Hopefully you're staying warm. It's a little cold outside. Good morning, Shannon. Good to see you all. Thanks for hanging out. Hopefully you have coffee in hand. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. You're going to have to forgive me. I am going to be doing a lot of multitasking and letting people into the room today, as well as presenting to you and answering whatever questions I can. So I will do my best, so just be patient with me. But today we're going to talk a little bit about the district's return to learn plans. And I wanted to share that with all of you. I'm making sure that I am recording. I am. I wanted to share this all with you so you could hear it from me in terms of how Springdale Park will be handling our return in January. The one thing that I will be asking throughout is if you would be so kind to adhere to our norms. So just being present, doing your best to follow along in the event that someone's already asked your question or I've already answered it, just to save time. Recognize everyone's perspectives. We know that this is an interesting topic to discuss, and many of us may not agree on the plans or the way in which the plans may be presented by the district or by the school. But just keeping in mind that we're all in this together and we're just doing whatever we can to make sure that we have the best experience for our kids and safest experience for our kids when they do return. We will have a student-centered mindset. We'll do our best to be solution-oriented. Assume goodwill of me, I will assume goodwill of you. And last but not least, if you would be so kind as to ask all of your questions in the chat, and I promise you I will go through and answer every single question, regardless of how long it could take this morning, but I definitely will answer all of your questions as best I can. One last thing that I probably should have written as a norm, please understand that I might have to give some I don't know answers. I think you guys know me well enough now to know that if I had a legit answer, I would give you one, but I am not afraid to say, I don't know. And I think we just have to all kind of get to that place. But we'll figure out some of these things as we move along. But there is a lot that we already have figured out. All right, so today we're going to talk about a little bit just to understand better the factors for reopening and review the schedule that APS has recommended for reopening for all schools. We'll talk about the updated plan, how APS will provide learning options during the second semester, and then your main takeaway is that you are able to still declare your child's intent, or you have a choice in how your child will receive instruction from Springdale Park, whether it is face-to-face, virtual, or you could choose a completely different option, Atlanta Virtual Academy, which is also virtual. So I wanted to share this with you. This is something you see that the district sends out often, CDC indicators for dynamic school decision-making. These are the guidelines that the district is adhering to regarding making the final call for opening. They are looking at a number of new cases per 100,000 people. They're looking at it not as a sole indicator, but as one of the many indicators to help their decision-making. They're also looking at the percentage of positive tests that come back within 14 days, the percentage of people who take the test and the percentage of positive tests. And they're also looking at these next 5 key mitigation strategies that can be implemented at the school level. So they are definitely looking at a number of different components to make a decision as to whether or not we will most certainly come back in January. So the mitigation strategies that they are really pushing schools to make sure that we have in place are these: consistent, correct use of masks. As you guys know, this is a very important one. This is a big deal to make sure that our kids understand the importance of the mask and know how to wear the mask properly. Social distancing to the largest extent possible. What this means is that within the actual school setting, we've all been in school before. We know that kids are kids, and we need to do what we can as administrators and teachers to do whatever we can to provide adequate social distancing within not only the classroom, but everywhere on campus, indoors or outdoors. Hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette, an added emphasis in hand hygiene, multiple washing your hands throughout the day, and how to use a mask appropriately, but also meaning coughing, sneezing into your elbow, into your mask. And these are things that we're going to be emphasizing for our children when we return. Cleaning and disinfecting, cleaning and disinfection. The district is really taking this very seriously. As you guys know, we are already in the throes of having asynchronous Wednesday. Those Wednesdays not only are to give teachers an opportunity to plan and collaborate with one another, but it does give us an opportunity to really deep clean the school once our children are back in school each and every day, or at least 4 days out of the 5 days. And then last but not least, contact tracing in collaboration with local health departments. So at Spark, we've had a lot of conversations regarding contact tracing and how we can make sure that we keep our children in their particular bubble, so we can inform parents if in the event, knock on wood, that it does not occur, that students are exposed to someone who becomes positive, or if a family member is exposed to someone via the child, via the other children in the class. So contact tracing at Spark with the local health department and with a number of our Spark families was a very important part of our entire COVID protocols and procedures. As you know, hopefully you know, we are dedicating ourselves to the I Can and I Will Stay Safe pledge for Springdale Park. You see this on the morning news if you're watching the news with me and some of our 5th grade Spark students who crack me up. Every day we are making sure that we remind our students that they can and they will mask up, wash up, back up, cover up, and clean up. Just to make sure that students, as well as their families, as well as their parents, or well as their adults, are doing everything that we can to stay healthy and safe, and while at Spark, so we can, or while at Spark or in the community, so we can come back to school safely. Okay, so I'm going to go into some of the added information that the district has provided as of December 4th regarding how they are implementing learning models that promote academic, physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being for all students. And these are all of the strategies used by APS to make sure that every school is safe as we can make it, so we can bring our kids back. So there have been some huge upgrades per the district in the air quality, water, building and buses, and people usage over the last few months that they have done to make sure that we are more safe in this and during these unprecedented times in this COVID world. So for air quality, they've invested over $68 million to upgrade our heating and ventilation and AC systems. They have serviced and monitored over 20,000 pieces of HVAC equipment, upgraded all of the system filters to the most efficient version the system can handle, and also they're increasing the pre-occupancy and post-occupancy of HVAC runtimes. What that basically means is that our instructional day starts at 7:30 in the morning, but they are turning on all the HVAC systems in the morning much earlier, so the air is circulated more throughout the day before students even arrive, and it will continue to do that in the afternoon once students leave. They've also participated in continuous flushing and disinfecting of water sources in our buildings, including our water fountains, our sinks, any showers that are on campus, and we do have one shower that is on campus. Proactive testing for Legionella, just testing the waters to make sure that our water is safe for students to drink, and keeping in mind that there's been a lot of stationary water that's just been sitting there because we have not had a number of adults or little bodies throughout the building in the last 8 months. They've also purchased water bottle filling stations in the school, in addition to what the PTO had already purchased us. So every grade level on every hall will have at least one water bottle filling station for kid use. Buildings and buses, they are using fogging machines to clean and sanitize all of the schools and the buses. A lot of that cleaning of the schools will happen on the deep cleaning Wednesday, as well as the Saturday and Sunday weekend times. Twice daily wipe downs and overnight cleaning of high touch areas. Letting someone in the room. Use of hand sanitizing stations at Spark. Since the last time you guys were there, we have a lot more hand sanitizing stations throughout the entire building. Every classroom has a hand sanitizing station mounted into their classroom, and then we have them located throughout the hall, in the cafeteria areas, and other places. The district is committed to setting our building capacity at a level of 60% for in-person learning to implement social distancing. So the district does believe, and I actually agree with this as well, at Spark anyway, 60% is what we can handle regarding our in-person learning to make sure that we can still implement social distancing. Limited use of APS facilities by outside organizations, and just to let you guys know, we are still getting organizations that are asking to use our building, but we are not allowing them to use our building at this time. The only ones that will be able to be in our building will be our teachers or staff and our students come January. We will not allow others into the building. All right, so let me see. Can you speak to the HVAC upgrade specifically at Spark? All of these things that I mentioned at Spark, or that I mentioned for the district, has occurred at Spark. So all of those things have already occurred at Springdale Park regarding the new filtering systems and the upgrades and just making sure that everything is working well. One other thing that I can say to you guys is to help the circulation, we also have a lot of our windows at Spark that were able to be open have been opened, and teachers will now have access to fresh air through the windows if their class does have a window that is able to be opened. So at one time we had all of those windows pretty much sealed tight, but now they've been released so the teachers can have fresh air with the students in the room as well. I hope I answered your question. Does every classroom have a sink for hand washing? Yes, every homeroom classroom does have a sink for hand washing. And again, they have a, what is it called? Hand sanitizing station. All right, how do you enforce 60% capacity? Well, that's going to be very interesting. So I'm going to answer some of these questions as we go through, but I'm going to come back to that question in just a minute, Carla, I promise you. So last but not least, in the last bucket of people, the district is also working towards, and they have ready to go, a comprehensive COVID-19 testing strategy where students and or teachers and staff will be able to be tested. I'm not sure if it's going to happen at the school, but I believe it will happen at different locations within the district where it will be that everyone will have access to free testing. The district is providing personal protective equipment for students and staff, additional screening measures of temperature checks, et cetera, entering into the building, practicing social distance per CDC guidelines, and then limiting class sizes and the number of people in the buildings. All right, so again, with the comprehensive COVID testing strategy, students, teachers, and staff with symptoms identified through health screening protocols will have access to this. Students, teachers, and staff who have had contact with someone with COVID-19 in the school or workplace will have access to this. And then any staff with possible exposure in the context of outbreak settings will also have access to testing. Screening measures we mentioned, including temperature assessment. I know that the CDC just came out with more recent guidance regarding whether or not we should do temperature screenings as students and as staff enter the building, but the district is committed to doing this. So we will still include temperature assessments as students and staff walk into the building. And of course, the personal protective equipment, sanitizing station, disinfecting spray bottles, paper towels, face masks, all of those things are not recommended, they will be required. So students will have to wear a mask if they come back to our school face-to-face, as will the adults. That we've had a lot of practice the last couple of weeks with our intervention groups that come to our school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have 40 little students, 40 little bodies that come into the building for intervention strategies, etc. And it's been an eye-opening experience to see what it takes for us to make sure that our kids understand the importance of wearing masks and how to wear them properly. So it's been nice to have a little dry run, so to speak, with a very small group before we have larger numbers of students enter the building. I'm just going to go past this one. These are some of the requirements per the district. We will have a care room. I'll explain. A care room is an isolation room. We're just going to refer to it as a care room, where in the event that a student does have a fever or is exhibiting signs or symptoms related to COVID, they will go to the care room where it will be manned by a school staff member, more than likely Nurse Carr and or Nurse Mack. And they will remain in that room, still socially distanced, of course, with masks and PPE provided, until a parent is able to come and pick up a student. Other things that the district is providing: face shields, access to water and soap, gloves and gowns, face coverings. They really have done a great job in terms of giving us additional equipment as needed. All right, so this is a questions part. So I'm going to go back to some questions. So Carla asked the question, how would you enforce 60% capacity? Honestly, it's going to be very, very difficult, but we have to think about the mitigation strategies that we would have to employ in order to have safe and adequate social distancing. So, for example, the district's plan is for students who, or families who choose to come back face-to-face, to have 4 days of face-to-face instruction. If Spark is at a 60% capacity of students coming back or more, 60 to 100%, I don't think that's going to happen, but that means we have autonomy to change up our instructional delivery model. That may mean that we are not going to offer 4 days of in-person instruction. It may just mean that we'll offer 2 different opportunities. For Group A, they'll come into school on Monday and Tuesday. For Group B, they would come into school on Thursday and Friday. So it's not a matter of enforcing the 60% capacity. We're going to take whatever we get. If we get 80% of our kids wanting to come, or families wanting to come back face-to-face, then we will accept 80%, but our instructional strategies may have to change to accommodate that social distancing. I hope that makes sense, Carla. So that's one way that we're going to work around the percentage. Would classrooms benefit from room-size air purifiers with HEPA filters? The answer is possibly, absolutely, but with many of our with our contact tracing task force, one of the things that they made very clear to me was some of these things were not necessary. As long as we had the robust system, constantly circulating air and or access to fresh air, some of the other things are not necessary. But we do have an opportunity to purchase these things in the event that that we feel that is necessary. We have not purchased air purifiers, but I know that our PTO was looking into that, okay? And just to be very honest, a lot of these things are on back order because a number of schools and a number of districts are purchasing them. Could you let us know which test they plan to use, PCR versus rapid? I'm not 100% sure regarding the specifics of whether or not it'll be a PCR or rapid test. Sounds like testing will be for suspected possible infection versus random preventative. I think it's going to be a combination of the two, to be quite honest with you, Carla. I think it will be a combination of the two, but it will be more of a, for people who are suspected. But I do think it will be a combination of the two. How exactly is simultaneous teaching going to work? How much more difficult is this teaching model for teachers? Ms. Chandler, Perry, hi, good to see you. I read with Chandler, with your son yesterday, but I will answer that question in just a minute. What is the technology being used for simultaneous teacher? I'm going to answer that simultaneous teaching question in just a minute. Are you guys still planning to have different teachers for face-to-face and virtual students? All right, so that tells me with those 3 questions, I'm going to move on so I can answer some of them. So what exactly is the plan? So the district has shared with us as of December 4th that on January 19th, teachers will return to the building with the exception of those who were approved for telework. So that means teachers still have the option of requesting telework and being approved for telework. Dependent upon that, we'll know which teachers will actually be coming into the building, etc. But all teachers on January 19th who have not been approved for telework will return to our building. They will return to our building to teach virtually until we start having children come in face-to-face. On January 21st, kindergarten, first, and second grade, along with our low-incident special ed programs, particularly for Spark, our autism unit will return face-to-face. So we will have K1 and 2 and our special ed autism program coming in on the 25th, and then on February 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade will return to face-to-face. Now, so that just gives you an idea of when people or when students will be returning and when staff will be returning, but it doesn't necessarily answer your questions about what will that day look like. So this is what the district is proposing: up to 4 days of face-to-face instruction a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I've already mentioned that. Wednesdays will continue to be asynchronous. That means there will be no live face-to-face or virtual instruction on those days. Wednesdays will still remain an opportunity for students, well, for teachers to plan and collaborate with their grade level colleagues, and it will also be an opportunity for students to work independently at home. Wednesdays is for deep cleaning, and it will return back to a traditional school hour of 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., regardless if you select virtual or face-to-face for your child. The reason the district is wanting to go back to the traditional hours is because of simultaneous teaching in the event that a school has to rely on simultaneous teaching. I'll answer that question in just a minute though. So one thing that's at Spark that we've done is we've just been looking at what percentage of teachers do we need in our building if, say, 40% of our kids come back face-to-face. So you can see at 12 students per class, in our classroom based on square footage, we can go up to 14 students per class. But my goal originally, and it's still a goal that I would like to try and maintain, is to have 12 students per class, because some students are a little taller than others and they take up a little bit more space than others. So ideally, I'm looking for 12 students per class, but we can go up to 14 students. But if 40% of our students come back, that's roughly 280 students coming back into the building. That means we would need 24 total classroom teachers. I hope that makes sense. 50%, that's 350 students, roughly 30 classroom teachers, or 30 homeroom teachers, I should say. If we're at an 80 or 60%, we need 36, 70%, 41, 80%, 47. And then you can see what the data shows us if it's 14 students per class. 40%, 21 teachers per class, up to 80%, 41 teachers per class. Now, the reason why I show you this is because these numbers will determine whether or not we are able to avoid simultaneous teaching, or if we have no choice but to do simultaneous teaching. So at Spark, and I'm just going to let you guys know this, I have every intention, and let me actually share something with you that is going to go out today in the Spark E in the Principal's Corner. These are things that I want to commit to, and this is what this is just information to help parents in the intent to return decision making. So our goal will always be to offer a strong face-to-face program and a strong virtual program. We don't want to give on any part of it. We have high expectations, not only of our students, but I have high expectations of our staff. But in order to commit to a strong face-to-face and virtual program, we have to see what the numbers are going to say and how we can go about it. During the intent window, we will not know which teachers have sought or received approval from Family Medical Leave Act or other types of leave, and or are approved for telework. You're not going to know which teachers are going to have telework because, and I'll tell you why, there are 2 deadline dates. Parents' first deadline date is December 21st to complete your declaration of intent, and teachers can continue to apply for telework all the way up until January 4th. I'm not sure why those deadlines were not the same day, but with that being said, we still have to give ample time for everything, for the due dates to arrive and for us to see where we are at that point. So there is a reopening puzzle that we have to consider. Student numbers plus the teaching staff plus the square footage of every one of our homerooms will result or will equate to a new schedule and possibly a new teacher. But we cannot fill in the blanks to this equation without all of the puzzle pieces. And it's the same concept that happened in October. So as soon as we have a better understanding of where we stand with student numbers, teaching staff, we will have some information as to how we can go about this. We are going to work individually with every grade level teacher to create a plan for specific group-based and or those puzzle pieces. I trust our teachers. Our teachers are innovative. They are expert in their area. They will have a lot of input in how we put this puzzle together. And some grade levels may have to look a little different compared to other grade levels. And I'm just putting that out there. That may have to be something that we consider. In instances where we can, and this is Terry Harness talking, so you can go back and if someone says, no, that's not true, you can say your principal said, and I will agree with you that I said this. In instances where we can, our goal is to put face-to-face students with face-to-face teachers, period. I do not necessarily want to do simultaneous teaching. Our goal is to put virtual students with virtual teachers. Again, our goal is to try to make it as easy as possible for not only our teachers, but for our students. So again, where we are able to do it, face-to-face students will only have a face-to-face teacher. That face-to-face teacher will not be responsible for virtual instruction. The virtual teacher will be working with virtual students. They will not be responsible for face-to-face instruction. Now, I understand, and I want to make sure that this is clear to you. The caveat is the numbers really is what's going to drive our decision making. If we can avoid simultaneous teaching where possible, then we are going to avoid simultaneous teaching. And that's just being honest with you. I would prefer to avoid simultaneous teaching if we can. I hope that answers some of the questions regarding simultaneous teaching, but we'll better know come January when we have all of the information. If we do have situations of simultaneous teaching, we have purchased additional equipment to support teachers in that endeavor. So voice amplifiers, additional microphones, additional computer monitors. We're even looking into, I'm on a waiting list right now for equipment. If you're familiar with something called Swivel, it is a camera that tracks basically movement within the classroom or follows a teacher, and it can turn and follow the teacher as they are walking around a room. If we have to do simultaneous teaching, then I'm hopeful that we will have that equipment in hand that we're able to use so we can make it as easy as possible if we have to do simultaneous teaching. But remember, I don't want to do it if we can avoid it. And just last but not least, just keeping you guys informed, 36% of our students or families in October in the first round of declarations chose to come back face-to-face. I am anticipating that this number will increase substantially. Do we know how much it will increase? I do not. But I am going, if I had to take an educated guess, I'm going to say over 50%. We'll probably get over 50%. I may be 100% wrong about that. So let me go and see if I've got any questions. Do you have a timeline yet about when you could share the days the students would attend if over 60%? I don't, Ms. Murray. I won't know it until we get all the declarations of intent in and until we know which teachers have been approved for telework. But as soon as we do, and I promise, I think a part of my holiday break will be looking at this data and trying to figure out these things, which is okay, because I'm probably staying home, so I can't watch Netflix the entire time. Let's see, thinking about how are going to arrange childcare to other virtual days, we need some lead time. Yes, parents, gotcha, not Kathy's, parents. I don't disagree with you. I'm going to do my best to give you as much time as possible. You may not know. I'm just trying to figure out what can I say and commit to. I really can't commit to a date to give you at this point. I really just need to see what the data shows, and then we've got to work this puzzle out. But I will do my best to make sure that parents have as much time as I can possibly give you so you can secure childcare. I promise that. If we decide to come back to school in January, can we go back to virtual if we don't feel safe? The answer is yes. If you make a choice, if you declare your intent for your child to come back face to face, you can choose to go back virtual if you don't feel that it is safe. That is completely the parent's choice. What you cannot do is start out virtual, say I'm going to go virtual, and then just send your child to school face to face. That's not going to happen. So whoever chooses virtual at this time, you need to keep your child virtual. You do not have the option of sending them back in until the next window to declare your intent. And I'm assuming the district will provide another window for the fourth 9 weeks. I'm assuming. They haven't said that just yet, or I can't remember if they said that just yet. What if a student finds out they tested positive over the weekend? Does the classroom have to quarantine for 14 days as well? We're going to take that on a case-by-case basis, Derek. So what will happen is since I am not a health provider and I am not an epidemiologist or anything close to it, and I don't want to be either, but with all that being said, we will turn that over to the district and to our health experts to help us make those decisions. So dependent upon that one individual student and how much contact they were in with other students, because keeping in mind, we are still social distancing, students will be wearing masks, we've purchased desk shields for students in their classrooms. There may be some other mitigating factors that the district or that health experts may say it may be okay for a classroom to return, even if there was a child who was exposed or if they had tested positive. I don't know what that answer will be until we're actually in that situation and we've got all of that information. But could they quarantine? It could definitely occur. Let's move on. Asynchronous through the school year or until March into the 9 weeks. I think I've heard a couple of different times that the district will remain asynchronous on Wednesdays until the end of the school year, Sarah. I think that is what I heard. Thank you, Ms. Murray. I am doing my best to avoid simultaneous teaching. I'm just reading your comment. Thank you for that. Thank you, Ms. Simeon. Can you please speak to what are all the factors that will lead to the decision, since it was expressed that the case numbers is not the only leading factor now? Tracy, is that Tracy Senatier putting me on the spot with that question? Honestly, there are a lot of different factors I think that the district is looking towards, and these were some of them that I had mentioned, which are here. So it is the new cases per 100,000. New cases per 100,000. It's one of the factors. Percentages of positive cases overall, and then the mitigation strategies that I mentioned. So if you listen to the board meeting last night, board members asked Dr. Herring a few times, what is the drop dead number? Like what is the number that we're going to say we're definitely coming back? And she said that we are definitely coming back. Okay, she did respond that we are returning in January, that we're going to move forth with these plans. So I don't know if there's any one particular number. Oh wait, let me take that back. She said we will definitely come back. In the only thing that could change that is if there was a nationwide stay-at-home order or something along those lines. Thank you, Shannon. State or federal mandates to shut down. Unless there is, we will come back. And that is what she had said last night in the board meeting. I hope that answers, but as far as, I think there are a number of indicators that they will be looking at to determine whether or not we should come back. Okay, so going back to the 60% rule. So you just heard me say that the district's goal was to have 4 days of face-to-face instruction a week. That is Springdale Park's goal. I want to see the children there as often as possible throughout our week. But dependent upon the 60% mark, we may have to monitor and adjust our instructional program. So even though it says 4 days a week, based on this number, just so we can continue to social distance, we may have to drop down to 2 days a week for one group, 2 days a week for another group. And that would just give us another mitigating strategy to support the need for social distancing within our class or within our school. Is it possible to confirm there will be another enrollment window opportunity? I'll definitely confirm that. I don't remember just reading about it, but I've heard people discuss it, and I've heard some of the higher ups discuss it, but I will definitely confirm that there will be another enrollment opportunity or declaration of intent opportunity, but I feel confident that there will be. Okay, the intent to return is for the first 9 weeks for the second semester. All right, so again, asynchronous Wednesdays will be a part of it, you guys know. And are you able to declare your intent? The answer is absolutely yes. If you have already completed your declaration of intent, if you did this in October, and you are still good with your decision from October, you don't have to complete the survey. You don't have to redo it. You're good to go. Your answer has already been captured. But if you plan on changing your mind from your October decision making to now your January decision making, you need to go back into the survey and you need to redo it. All right. So if you've already done it and you're good with your choice, you don't have to redo it. If you are going to change your mind and change it to something different than what you originally chose, then you need to go back in and change your declaration of intent. If you choose not to do the survey or the declaration of intent at all, you automatically default to virtual school. And that will be at least for the second, it's the third 9 weeks in the second semester, the first 9 weeks in the second semester. So you do need to make sure that you do that and feel good about your choice and your decision. I wanted to mention, you guys remember there was the debate back in October of need versus want. You know your family better than anyone. You know your child better than anyone. Springdale Park is not going to question your choice. We're just going to accept your choice and do our best to make sure that we make everything work for all students that return. So I want you to make an informed choice for yourself and for your family. And you don't have to think about it as need versus want. You guys know your family and what is needed or what is wanted within your building. We're not going to question what it is that you decide. December 21st is the deadline. And guys, keeping in mind, you still have the same choices that you had in October. Virtual with Spark, in person at Spark, and Atlanta Virtual Academy, which is designed to keep a consistent virtual program throughout the entire year without the potential for going back and forth. Because let's just be realistic. There could be a time in the month of February, March, when a number of our students are exposed to someone who is positive. And dependent upon health experts' feedback, we may have to close the school. So it could be a going back and forth of face-to-face or virtual. Atlanta Virtual Academy will keep it consistent throughout the entire time. So that's why that third choice was there. All right, okay. Will students have to bring a lot of supplies each day to school as we discussed in October? The answer is yes. So everything that we discussed as far as students, they will need to bring it every single day. They'll be bringing all of their books. They'll be bringing their devices. They need to bring that with them every day to school, and then they also need to take that back home, because we're going to do our best that in the event that we were to quarantine or had to quarantine a classroom or the entire school, we want to make sure that our kids have all of their supplies and things with them. So yes, all of the same stuff that we discussed in way back when, it still applies to the January reopening. I'm sorry, but how will drop-off and dismissal go in staggered times? So all the same stuff. So you still will have the opportunity to choose if you want to put your child on the bus, keeping in mind that if they get on the bus, they may not be able to social distance the way that we would be able to do in the classroom. I am recommending that you drop your children off in carpool. That is what I'm recommending. It'll be, it's not what I prefer, but I think it will just keep us a little safer than attempting to put them on the bus where we can't guarantee social distancing. So dropping them off regular time in the morning, 7:30 to 8 o'clock is drop-off time. You can also walk or bike your children into school, to the school, but keeping in mind that parents will not be allowed into the building. So 7:30, 8 o'clock will be the carpool drop-off time. You will get a carpool hang tag. We're going to once we get this all going and we have an understanding of how many students will be coming back, students that will be returning, your families will automatically get a carpool hang tag, and that will be the way that we pair up a child to a car based on that carpool hang tag number. Again, buses, we cannot guarantee social distancing. And there is also going to be, if you choose to put your child on the bus, there will be an intermingling of students across all the grade levels. So if you guys recall, one of the big things at Spark we wanted to do was to keep students in their, sorry, I'm looking for the right slide, is to keep students in their bubble. So when they get to Spark, they will remain with their homeroom teacher throughout the entire day. They will stay with them for lunch. They'll stay in the classroom eating lunch with the teacher, or they will have outside opportunities, and there are new areas outside on Spark campus where teachers can take students to have lunch. And thanks to PTO for providing us with all of these new tables, et cetera, in these outdoor areas. Again, if we're going to keep them in their bubble, that means that they will stay in their classroom during specials, and the specials teachers will be teaching virtually inside the classroom, similarly to the way that they are already doing at home. We did not want to have students moving throughout the building or homerooms moving throughout the building, and it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to have a whole homeroom classroom to move to the art room. It makes more sense to virtually pop into the homeroom classroom and to provide specials for kids. So kids will still receive all of their regular specials. All the same stuff applies. I could go through it, but I mean, it's probably easier if you guys ask me specific questions and I can just refer to that particular slide. But keeping in mind, this is an example of what the classrooms will look like. These desks are a little closer than what's happening at Spark. I need to get an updated picture, but we literally went to every classroom and we've measured the distance from one desk to another, where they basically have a perimeter of about 6 feet in all directions from them. On each one of the desks, there will be a desk shield, which is transparent that students can see through, so they can still receive instruction regularly, in addition to the fact that our students will be wearing masks as well as our teachers. Just a great way to get all the supplies. Mr. Hardis is talking about to keep our kiddos and teachers safe to join Raise Craze. It is extended to December 6th. Thanks, Shaylee. Yes, Raise Craze is just saying, if you haven't signed your children up for Raise Craze, I would greatly appreciate it. It's a really cool opportunity to earn money for Spark through random acts of kindness. So if you could do that, that would be excellent. Will the kids still be doing work on tablets and computers in a face-to-face learning setting? Yes, they will. They will. There will still be opportunities where classwork will be placed into the Google Classroom, and we're trying to keep it as paperless as possible, because we don't want little hands turning in paper to a teacher, and then there's some CDC guidelines with letting paper and or books kind of quarantine for a certain number of days before we start moving them to the shelves, or before a teacher could even grade it. So there will be activities, assignments that will be assigned in the Google Classroom, which is why we want our students to bring their devices to Spark each and every day that they return. So they will still have work that they will be doing in their Google Classroom using their device. All right, let me add a few more people still coming in. All right, what other questions do you guys have for me? What other questions are there? Something that I haven't touched upon that you guys would like to know? I think I mentioned we will not be using the cafeteria. Students will be eating in their classroom and or outdoors. The hallways, our hallways are already decked out in one-way signs. Similarly to DeKalb Avenue, where you see a green arrow, you know you can walk on this hallway. If you see on this side of the hallway, if you see a red X, you're not supposed to be on that part of the hallway. You will see that. And kids will be able to tell you all of these things. We're one of the biggest pieces of advice that we got from our contact tracing task force, COVID task force, was to do our best not to spend time on writing down students' names that go into our bathrooms. They will be. We know that students are going to have to use the restroom. Once they leave their classroom, there will be someone in the hall that is monitoring students walking through the hall, and students will be able to go to the restroom, etc., regularly. So just letting you guys know that. Playgrounds will be zoned off into different areas: playground turf, playground structure area, sports court, gaga ball area, Hirsch House lawn, the turf. And the reason why we are zoning the playground is because we want to make sure that our bubbles stay in our bubbles. All right, I see a question. As a former teacher, how will teachers get a break during the day if their students remain with them through lunch and specials? So also as a former teacher, I don't have an answer to that. I don't know that we're going to be able to provide face-to-face teachers with a break. And that sounds terrible when I say it, and that sounds like it's a bad principle when I say it. But the honest answer is we do not have the supervision or the amount of staff on hand to provide breaks to the teachers in a face-to-face setting. That's a part of the reason as to why we want parents to understand the importance of Asynchronous Wednesday, because think about it. In a regular pre-COVID time, when our teachers are teaching and our students are in our school, they have opportunities throughout the day where they do not have students in their room. Back before COVID happened, our kids went to their specials classes. So when they were in art, when kids were in art class or music or PE, our teachers had planning time. They had a break to plan the rest of their day or plan for the following day, or just to kind of just eat lunch. With that being said, during COVID times, oh, I hear babies. During COVID times, it's going to be a completely different situation. They will not have those breaks built into their schedule because we're trying to keep them in that bubble, and we're trying not to introduce other teachers into that bubble. So that means the only people that we have that can stay with the kids during lunch and recess, etc., is that teacher. So it is going to be a long day for our teachers. We'll do whatever we can to give them an opportunity to go and use the restroom if they need to. And we do have plans in place for teachers to express that to us, to let us know that they need a relief person. But they are not going to get the traditional breaks throughout their day like it would have been pre-COVID times. So I hope, from one former teacher to another, I hope that answers your question. It's not the most ideal of situations, to be very honest with you, from that viewpoint. In case of simultaneous teaching, will the virtual students be watching the teacher teach the kids in the classroom, or would that work? So right now, if simultaneous teaching does occur, I've read about this often, and I've seen that there's a lot of research right now. There's a lot of opinions regarding how simultaneous teaching is going. At Spark, our goal is to, again, keep face-to-face students with face-to-face teachers and virtual students with virtual teachers. That is the goal. In the event that simultaneous teaching occurs, we will be receiving training, principals receive training this week on how simultaneous teaching can occur in the classroom. Off the top of my head, the thought would be, if there are students in the classroom and there are students virtually that the teacher is teaching at the same time, that it might make the most sense to just teach as if we were teaching virtual school. And then when opportunities are there for a teacher to work in small groups face-to-face with the kids, the virtual students would be working on an independent activity at home. And then when they're working in small groups with virtual kids online, the face-to-face kids may be working independently, probably not in small groups, but independently on assignments that were differentiated for that student. Simultaneous teaching takes a tremendous amount of planning, and it's just not an easy thing to do. Luckily, we have some very high-performing, high-achieving teachers that are ready to do whatever is needed and whatever we need to do. So I'm confident that we will do it, but I will be honest with you, it will not be easy. So, but that is how I envision simultaneous teaching working, is that the teachers would be teaching, sitting in their room with students in their room and teaching virtually as if they were at home, is what I'm anticipating. But that still remains to be seen. We'll get a little bit more information regarding how best to do that, hopefully this week, and then we'll be able to train teachers on how to do it as well. What other questions? All right, so one thing I wanted to point out is, keeping in mind, I told you that the regular schedule will be implemented from 8 to 2:30. So 8 to 2:30 is the schedule. Right now, our classes end, with the exception of kindergarten, right now they end at 1:30. So what I'm saying for the teachers is that 1:30 to 2:30 time block for face-to-face and virtual instruction is the what you need now block, or the power hour. That last hour of the day, the teachers will be working with students, and it'll give them an opportunity to use that time that they felt they needed during the day, but they didn't have. So if they felt that the lesson that they gave for math that day was okay, but they needed to continue to, hit on it a little harder, they would be able to use this 1:30 to 2:30 What You Need Now block to do that. It is also an opportunity for kids to work on things that they need to do individually, for teachers to work one-on-one with students, and for teachers to work in small groups with kids. So that's how we're going to utilize that 1:30 to 2:30 time. Will GATE classes remain virtual? At this point, yes. The answer is GATE will remain virtual. If you guys think about it, GATE is a little tricky because we have gifted students that are in all of our homerooms. So let's take an example, 3rd grade. We have 6 3rd grade classroom teachers. We have 6 3rd grade homeroom teachers. Every one of those homerooms have students that are in the gifted program. Well, Mr. Harness, how are you going to keep the bubble maintained without popping it if they have to participate in their GATE classes? The only way that we can see it working and working well is if we keep it virtual, as to the best of our ability. If there are students who, or if there are families who choose virtual from home, then they will still clearly have a virtual GATE teacher. If there are families who have students that are gifted and they come into the building for face-to-face learning, we're going to work that out. It may have to mean that either we Zoom in or those students work in their classroom virtually, or as long as we have other areas in our building that can maintain social distancing at a different degree, for example, our cafeteria, we could have some of our gifted students go to the cafeteria potentially to receive GATE instruction. But the goal would be to try and keep gifted classes virtual in order to maintain our bubble. Does this mean that teachers in 3rd through 5th teach both humanities and STEM? Well, so this is another little interesting puzzle piece that Spark has that maybe other schools do not have. 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers, they teach on a team, on their homeroom team. One teacher teaches humanities, one teacher teaches STEM. So if you have students coming into the building face-to-face, but let's say one of those teachers are virtual, then clearly that one child may not have that teacher as their teacher. So one of the biggest things that I want to make sure is very clear to everyone is that the current teacher that your child has may change on January 25th. So students may not have the teacher that they currently have, and that is a really important piece of this puzzle that I want to make sure that everyone is very aware of. Depending on the amount of students that come back and depending on the teachers who request telework, you may have a completely different team of teachers. I may have to put, I'm just throwing this out as an example, don't go telling the teachers that I said that they're changing. I may have to put a 3rd grade teacher teaching 1st grade, depending on the numbers. I may have to have a 4th grade teacher teaching 2nd grade, depending on the numbers. Or I may have to have a 2nd grade teacher teaching 5th grade, depending on the numbers, because our Springdale Park teachers, they are all certified K through 5. So they can teach any of those grade levels. And just depending on how it all shakes out, we might have to have some teacher changes. And again, that means we have to do a lot of quick scheduling so we can inform parents with as much notice as possible that there may be a completely different teacher. So I think I answered that question perhaps, but there may be opportunities. I can give you an example in 4th grade. 4th grade, we have a team with Miss Fellows, Miss Tullock, and Miss Canuck. They're a wonderful team in 4th grade. They both at one time were planning on coming back face-to-face. So they were both going to, one teacher was going to teach their homeroom humanities, the other was going to teach that homeroom STEM. But they may have to Zoom in to each other's classroom in order to keep and maintain the bubble that they were currently in. So again, there may be creative strategies that we put into place to make sure that all of this happens, but it's going to take a lot of piecing all the puzzles together. So does this mean they stay home on GATE day? No, the answer is no. They can still come in face-to-face. and we'll have to work that out. But yeah, regardless of gate, if you choose face-to-face, then we would want you to send them face-to-face every day, or for the 4 days out of the week. Even if you have to put students with different teachers, will you group students with other children from their current classrooms as best as possible? Hey, Julie Witten, the answer is absolutely. We'll do our best to group. I'll give you an example. So think of, let's say, Miss Mucus. Miss Mucus is a second grade teacher. Half of her kids decide, or half of her families decide they want to come face to face. The other half decides they want to remain virtual. We'll do our best to keep that face-to-face group all together so they'll at least know friends and other classmates within that group. There may be times, though, where, let's say, a smaller percentage in one homeroom will choose to come face-to-face. And that smaller percentage may result in us putting a few children in this homeroom, a few children in this homeroom. So we'll do our best to give them opportunities to have classmates that they know and remain in class with people that they know to the best of our ability. That's all I can really promise on that, is we're going to try to keep them with similar classmates as possible. Thank you, Zoom user. Appreciate that. What other questions you guys have for me? Any other questions? All right, so I'm just going to kind of see if there's anything else that I wanted to mention. We've talked about asynchronous, talked about specials, gifted. Oh, let me mention this. After school care, for after school daycare, the club will still be there. So any families that decide to come back face-to-face, you will still have an option of placing your child in after-school daycare with the club. Now, I want to make sure that this is clear. This is purely for after-school daycare. We will not be offering other clubs and organizations. For example, at Spark, we've always had ballet, we've had karate, we've had soccer, we've had tennis. We've had all of those things offered. We're not going to offer all of the different clubs and organizations. We will only offer after-school daycare. I hope that makes sense. And the reason that we're doing that is because we're limiting the people that come into our building. After-school daycare, the club will go through the same screening measures as any Springdale Park staff member and student. They will go through every one of them. But we can't guarantee how safe we couldn't guarantee safety if we're allowing different clubs like ballet, PE, soccer, karate coming in on different days of the week. We just couldn't do that. So we will not be doing that. What can we do to support? This is other than PTO. Honestly, just being as supportive of your teacher as possible. I think that is a huge deal. Giving them words of encouragement, thanking your administrative staff, because I promise you, we are not okay. No, I'm kidding. We're okay, but this is not the easiest of things to go through for us either, because there are a lot of people who have varying opinions, and they think that other things can work differently or should work differently, and I get it and I appreciate it, but we're just doing the best that we can with our knowledge. So just being supportive of your teachers. If they say, hey, we need this in our classroom, if you get an opportunity to provide that, then I would ask that you please do so. Making sure that your kid is showing up to school each and every day, making sure that your kid shows up to school on time, making sure that your kid is doing all of their work. Those are things that are just everyday supports from parents, but they really do go a long way in terms of helping our morale, to know that you guys are supporting us and we're doing everything that we can to create a good experience for your kid. So that's what I would say. So, but I appreciate it, Shannon. And of course you can donate to the PTO and or through Raise Grace. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for giving us this much thought and planning. I appreciate that. I feel like I was a little scattered today, but I appreciate you think that Thank you for that comment. But